Micron technology. Revenue has dramatically decreased for the first time in certainly my memory, meaning that gross profit is negative. The memory and storage industry environment deteriorated sharply in the fourth quarter of 2022, and that was the case throughout all of 2023. Customers took action to reduce inventory levels pretty much everywhere. This not only meant there was less sales, but also that there was significant reductions in the average selling price for DRAM, NAND, and bit shipments. 1.83 billion in write-downs was necessary in 2023, as a huge chunk of the inventory that Micron already had for sale had its value suddenly evaporate. As investors, we should very much expect that further write-downs of inventory are possible. Much of this was directly from undecision by China's Cyberspace Administration, CAC, lol. Micron was prohibited from selling its products in China because CAC decided that Micron was a cybersecurity risk. As of the latest reporting, China's Cyberspace Administration has not allowed any companies to be designated as able to sell information infrastructure. The impact to companies like Micron is catastrophic. Not being able to sell at all in China makes all the Chinese revenue disappear, but that Chinese revenue is only approximately a quarter of total worldwide revenue. A quarter is very, very significant for a company of this size, but it's only a quarter. The second, more dramatic impact is that since China didn't just do this to Micron, but did this to essentially any non-Chinese company selling wafers and memory, the knock-on impact of decoupling Chinese market for these products from the rest of the world is that the market just became a whole lot smaller. Smaller markets tend to have less efficient price discovery, which is really the real problem that Micron is struggling with. Of course, it hurts to lose some customers, but the decision to stop selling in China was not really a surprise to anyone who had been paying attention as far back as 2016. Certainly since the pandemic, it's become very clear that this was a possibility. What was less clear was that the worldwide prices of things like DRAM and NAND would get knocked way out of equilibrium and then stay out of equilibrium for a very long time. It turns out that immediately reducing the size of a globalized market causes some markets to paralyze, and that price paralysis affects every single country on the planet, not just Micron's Chinese sales. Management shows us the income statement again, but this time including the margins right next to it. This is how executives think about things. Before the memory market decoupling, margins were in the mid-40s. With the snap of a finger, price gets knocked out of equilibrium, stays paralyzed for way longer than anyone even realized was a possibility. All of a sudden, Micron is stuck selling at a loss, a 9% margin loss. For now, Micron is bravely keeping research and development almost exactly the same as it was last year, not growing it anymore, but also not shutting down research and development just yet, despite every dollar of research and development being almost twice as expensive as it was last year in a margin type analysis. In what might be a controversial decision for some investors, I'm finding an update on one of Micron's bigger investments for the future. Still talking about this hopeful future, Micron intends to make investments in the back-end facility in Xi'an, China. I might not remember exactly what they said last year, but it seems to me like they've kept this paragraph pretty much untouched except for adding the words over time. Tough position to be in, but you don't build a new back-end facility if you don't expect the Chinese market to open up to you again eventually. Micron treating the Chinese and US government kind of like squabbling children rather than taking them at their word. However, some investment in China is being redirected towards a new assembly and test facility in Gujarat, India. So even if everyone makes amends and tries to go back to how things were before, Micron has made some consequences appear. 10 years from now, India will have more memory production capability than it ever would have if China had not started, quote-unquote, playing these games. Other than that, the Micron board of directors is reacting a bit magnanimously, authorizing the repurchase of up to $10 billion in outstanding common stock, including expanding the possibility of using derivative transactions in order to be really quite aggressive in share buybacks. There's generous share buybacks, and then there's this new form of very aggressive share buyback, buy the dip of their own shares. I'm very curious. Let's go find out what more we can dig up about this decision. While it did take a little bit of digging, I have uncovered more about what these aggressive stock repurchases are. And the most astute of you might notice that this is actually a section talking about restricted stock awards rather than share buybacks. This is almost the exact opposite of purchasing shares. This is the shares that Micron has committed to issuing in the upcoming years if many of their employees hit their bonuses. And it seems like the right way to think about the share buyback we were seeing in the other section is actually trying to plug this potential liability rather than a positive application of share buybacks like maybe we would have hoped for. So when I first saw it, I thought, I've never seen a share buyback program that's this aggressive, but I am retracting that statement. Micron is forced to be aggressive because otherwise they will be issuing more stock awards than they ever have before, precisely when it is the most expensive time in maybe ever for them to be issuing these stock awards to employees. The timing of these is absolutely terrible for them, and any dollar they can spare in order to buy back shares is just gonna help it bleed a little bit less in the next couple of years. Looking at the actual numbers for this, here is a table of stock-based compensation expense, the different categories it shows up in the income statement, and the total value over the last 3 years. If I'm understanding correctly, this total value, hovering just above $500 million in the latest year, is due to shoot up exponentially in the next couple of years. Every share that can be put into the treasury stock through the share buyback program will do a little bit in order to reduce the future growth of this. But even then, unless Micron can magically fix the crazy market prices of memory chips, which is not really in their control, this issue of stock awards alone does mean there's gonna be a couple years of serious pain in store for Micron, and we can already tell it's gonna happen. Here are the earnings per share for the last 3 years. I don't think I ever enjoy seeing companies going through hard times, but it hits especially hard when, personally, Micron was one of my favorite stocks for years. And I know for a fact that this business has made a lot of money for a lot of people for a lot of time. To see an industry giant, a memory and chip giant, fall this hard this quickly because of politics, at best I can take it as a reminder that we should stay humble. But if I think about it for even a little bit longer, I might start to get a little bit mad and upset that the world is this way. So let's get ready to see the Sage Seeds Artificial Intelligence ranking, remembering that a ranking closer to the first percentile is the best. I'm hoping this ranking isn't that bad because this is still a solid company just going through hard times. But what ranking do you expect? Micron is ranked in the 82nd percentile, a pretty bad ranking, but definitely not as bad as it could be. Do you agree or disagree with this ranking? Are any of you surprised that it's not hovering around the bottom of the list? I'd love it if in the comments we could get a discussion going about the Chinese-US trade wars, memories with Micron, other businesses that remind you of what Micron is going through right now. Share your thoughts in the comments. Remember to like and subscribe so that I can continue to make videos just like this one. Send me your feedback and requests. Follow me on Instagram to get hints about future videos. And thank you for watching until the end.